set up the things that are in place so that we have a place for students to stay. He helps us with the money piece, sets pricing. We would get our tuition rate. There's some host family money, there's some administrative costs, there's some insurance costs, and that's all paid by the student themselves. So there's no money out of pocket from Sunapee taxpayers, and nothing would be taken away from anything that's happening currently in Sunapee or money being spent in Sunapee on Sunapee students. We need someone, if we're going to go in this arena, which again I think it's an opportunity for us to broaden our horizons a little bit, get a little bit of diversity into Little Old Sunapee, but I think we have a lot to offer. I think we're a nice school. We do a lot of, as we just spoke of, academic, have a lot of academic success, and I think we're very attractive to a lot of students from all over the country. Currently, Bow and Campbell High School in the state of New Hampshire work with Philip, and they bring in 1 to 2 to 3 students a year. So we're not talking about 30, 40 students, we're talking about 1 or 2 a year. And I just need to explain this with the F1 visa. I've learned a little bit about this in Maine, but I'm learning more about it now, speaking with the Homeland Security. So students that apply for an F1 visa to come to the United States to study academically can come to a public high school for 1 year, but can go to a private high school for the full year term. So if you come to a public high school, you can only allowed to come for 1 year. You go to a private high school like KUA, you're allowed to go for all 4 years. You can come for the visa for 4 years. So there has been, and again, this goes back to my days in Maine, I know a lot of educators have been working with the legislators to try to change that law. Because what it basically does, it allows the private schools to generate a lot of revenue. So, you bring a kid as a freshman, you bring 30 of them in, that's 4 more years of these students coming, paying your tuition rate. It sort of hinders a little bit the public school, who might be trying to attract some students, not necessarily always for revenue, but there's a revenue stream there. The potential of that legislation changing will most likely happen. And when that does, the floodgates are somewhat off. And when floodgates off, now we're going to have kids coming to us and say, we're from Japan, we're from North Korea, we're from wherever it may be, and we're not going to have any idea how to vest those kids, where they're coming from, what they are, do they belong here, should they be here, and so this might help us in that process. Putting him in place now, there are over 100,000 kids a year that come to our American high schools to study from other countries. That's a lot. It's a lot of children coming to our country, but there has to be a way for us to vet that. And Sean's not going to be able to do that, Megan's not going to be able to do that, nor do I have the time to do that. We need someone to help us with that process. And so this would enter into a memorandum of understanding with Philip and his company to have him go out and promote Sunapee Middle High School, go out and find kids who might be a match, put us in touch with them, have us do an interview with them, have us have those conversations, set our price, tuition price, put our costs in there, parent pays that price to us, we collect our money, we give him his percentage that the parents pay for, it's not coming out of our pocket, coming out of percentage, and it's a done deal. They come over for the year and eventually, hopefully, for 4 years. What you're going to find, and again, having experienced this, you're going to find some kids that will come in the 9th grade, because they'll come in the 9th grade with the hope to build a grade to get to a private school because of the 4-year, 1-year thing, or they'll come their senior year with then extending on to an American college. Right? So there is opportunity there. Again, we're not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. Bow High School last year had 2, Campbell had 1. We spoke to their BA, I spoke with both superintendents. It's been a very successful relationship and contract that they've entered with Philip. It's the memorandum of understanding that it can be broken at any time. He's not kind of a shady character. He's not hiding money under the table. Everything's on the up and up. They work through an accreditation agency. They work with banks. They work with insurance companies all in this country that have vetted this system in this process. So I'm asking a couple things. One, I'm asking you if you'd be interested, one, in entering that memorandum of understanding. The cost for us would be about $2,000, and that's not for the memorandum of understanding. That's going to the Homeland Security. So I have to apply for student exchange visa program. So I put our application in. Our application is about $1,200 to get that processed, and then that allows us to be on the list to receive kids with F1 visas. But then there was about I think it was a $650 inspection, where they're actually, the Department of Homeland Security will come out and they're gonna go through our school and say, what are your programs and what is in place, and sort of make sure we're vetted that way. Because
Is that a one-time fee?
that's a one-time fee.
And then the inspections are annual, or do they?
There's a potential of an annual inspection. So most likely we don't have biannual, but most of it could be annual. But there's no additional fees. Once you're approved, you just recertify and they come out and they inspect you. Yeah. So that's where, that's sort of what I'm asking you tonight. I think it's a lot, it might be a lot to get your arms around. If you've had an opportunity to read some of the backup that was in your packet, you probably have a little better understanding, maybe better than I even explained it. But I think there, again, I'm gonna go back to, I think there's some opportunity here for Sunapee. I think there's some opportunity, one, for some revenue, right? And not a huge amount of revenue, but some revenue. But there's some diversity, and it's also exposing our kids to the global world. Speaking with Philip also, there is potential down the road that our kids have the opportunity to do the same thing and go in the other direction.
Yeah.
And he would be a broker helping our kids to go potentially to a foreign country. So I see it as a win-win. Again, I spoke to 2 other schools in New Hampshire that are using him. Co-Brown also has a similar program through the F1 visa. Being a private school or private academy, they keep kids for about 40 years. They have a different broker. But it's a very, very successful, and again, I can speak to my time in Maine, and we had over 40 exchange students, and it was a very successful program there as well. So, that's my spiel.
Any questions?
Yeah, do you need a motion or do you?
So, yeah, I would need a motion to move forward with the memorandum of understanding, and I've submitted the application, I have 14 days to either leave it and let it die, or to pay it.
The application to?
The Homeland Security for the visa, to be a school visa program.
I have a question.
Yes, Heather.
Russ, you had mentioned that there had previously been little interest amongst parents or other community members
Yeah.
in housing these students. Are you suspecting that there is a different feeling in the community now?
Yeah, and great question, Heather, because before we were bringing over 30 students at once for a 2-week program, and we were asking families to take 2 students at a time. So here we're talking about 1 student, and we had a couple of people who called me and said, if you had a student, we'd definitely be interested. And so I think it's a little less of, even it's a longer burden, but I think people may be more vested in saying, okay, I'm taking 1 student on, and I know what that looks like, and I'm going to commit to that, other than I need to find homes for 30 students.
Okay.
But that would be, that part of that would be our responsibility. So if we couldn't find a home, a suitable residence, then we couldn't take the student.
And I read
Anybody
in
else?
here,
April?
that was part of the interview process and whatnot. Before we accept them, is we would find an appropriate
Exactly.
home for them. So it wouldn't be,
Right.
hey, we've got
Hey,
this
you're
kid, we
here.
took their money, somebody's gonna take them. It's, we found the right match for that specific child who we've interviewed, who we.
All gotta be in
with.
place.
So, yeah. The only concern I had is, as you get to the 10 or 15 student range, how the other expenses start to increase. Right now, 1 or 2, you're right, with the fixed costs that we have at the school, it would really just be a bonus. If you get up into that 15 or 20, I think that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that's something that's coming soon.
And I think, again, that's something we have complete control over. Right? We
can say no.
can always just say no, based upon our numbers, wherever they are.
Do they normally look at a school size and say, this is what we're looking for, or do they?
I think,
Is it
and again, having experienced it, I think a lot has to do with the school itself, right? Camden Rockport had a heavy theater, and so you got a lot of kids in theater and drama and music. You have some kids that will come for the academic, just for the academic success that Sunapee has. I think that's going to be very attractive to a lot of kids, a lot of students, and a lot of families,
Especially with the new STEM programs.
especially the new stuff.
Are you looking to do this, start this when?
So, Brian, I don't think we'd be able to start probably, I would say the earliest would be next year. I think by the time I get this application through, by the time that Homeland Security gets out here and gets us all in place, by the time we get Philip back out here, he'll cut some promotions and do some pamphlets for us, and he puts us out there, I would imagine at best, we'd be looking maybe next year to get our first opportunity to take a student.
So funny that you say a year, because in the contract, I recall, it said something about for the first year, the expenses are covered. After that, there may be some additional fees for the promotional items. So would we work to just make sure we got all of that in within our
Including in
window?
the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any? Expense-wise, as far as, like you said, you were saying that the costs on the last page, or on the pie chart,
Yeah.
that right there would be picked up 100% by the,
Yeah, so that bottom number, and again, this is just his sort of breakdown projection on that pie chart. That 28,620
Yeah.
would be the cost towards that family.
okay,
Okay, so there's that family, and then they break down as
Gotcha.
the school part,
Okay.
student accommodation part, and program operation.
so the home or the person that's taking care of that person
So we would
possibly
put,
could
yeah,
take-
we would put a stipend there, and what Philip has told us, and what I've heard from both Bo and Campbell, is that most families don't want the stipend.
Right, but
And so,
they
you know
have
what,
it there in
but
case they
have
want.
it there as a token, and I think it's also a great gesture, because you're asking someone to take on a student for, potentially a year. You're going camping, you're going on vacation,
Yeah.
please, help, let this cover that opportunity for that student to be involved.
Yeah, okay.
You need a motion?
If you're ready to have one, I'll take one.
I'm ready to make one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm still kind of wondering what you're asking for. Are you asking for us to approve the program, or? to
I'm asking you
Approve the-
to approve the
yeah.
memorandum, to allow me to enter, or to enter into the memorandum of understanding.
And continue.
The
I'll go back and
process.
read I move that we approve the proposed concept of Blue River Creative International as presented,
Yeah.
and you may enter into a memorandum of understanding with that entity to explore foreign students coming here.
Okay, motion's been made by Brian and seconded by April. And this one right here that you got in the package is for just Sunapee School only?
Yes.
Correct,
Yep.
okay. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
Just one question.
Paul?
It's a memorandum of understanding, we can exit it anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Either party, it says, yeah.
And do they have certain areas of the world where they're more,
He's
established?
located out of New Zealand. He said he has taken kids from Switzerland, from Germany, France, from Japan, from,
so it'll be a diverse group coming
yeah,
in?
absolutely. I think, and again, I'm gonna draw my experience from Camden. Once you somewhat hit an area, that area it sort of speaks for itself. You get that reputation, and you have a tendency to pull more children from that area.
One other question. Age groups for the kids, where we're not looking at elementary? are
High
we?
school only.
High school. Thank you.
That's what we're registered as.
Sean, you have any comments or anything? Or Megan, do you have any?
I think it'll be good. Years ago, we used to have 2 to 3 foreign exchange students at certain times, and I thought it was a really nice addition to school when we had them. So the numbers that Mr. Holden is looking at, I would concur with both what Mr. Holden said about Joyce, not only for 15, but I think 2 or 3 traditionally has been a nice mix.
Megan? Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Excellent program.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be good. Okay, approval of advisory budget committee format.
So Sean, I'll start, but you maybe want to add to this as well. Sean and I have attended several selectmen's meetings over the summertime, actually starting, I think, in June of last year, regarding the Budget Advisory Committee. And Donna Ashwati, our town administrator, has gone back based upon some questioning and conversations at the selectmen's meeting and looked into the actual budget committee itself and how it was established and where it was established. And it kicks back to, believe it or not, 1989, and it was a petition warrant article, and it came from the floor. And I'm not going to read the thing to you, you've read it, but basically what it says is that the BAC, the Budget Advisory Committee, basically is the ABC, the Advisory Budget Committee, which it was still in place and has always been in place since 1989. I think it's
Yeah.
just morphed itself along the way. And as you can see on the last page, that committee is now made up of those members that you see on the right hand of that page. So instead of just being 5 members from the community at large, it is actually made up of the school board, selectmen, the department heads, the community at large, and then I'm not a voting member on that committee, but I am sort of the advisor, the presenter when it comes to the school portion. So the town, and I don't believe, and John, maybe you can help me, I'm not sure if you guys have taken full action on that or not at your last meeting.
It's not been voted on, but it has been discussed multiple times.
Okay, all right. So the town most likely is getting prepared, I believe, to take some action on it at some point in time. The interesting part about the original warrant article is the school was never mentioned in the original warrant article. It was just specifically for the town. My advice, I think, to the school board would be to follow the town suit in this case, and if the town takes this practice on, whether it's just for the year until they write up some other warrant article, they decide to change the process, but we would just mirror the town and go along with what they're going along with right now for this year, and again, if that changes, we change with them.
The original intent was for both, actually all departments, so that's part of the reason why Russ seems to think it would make sense to do it, so.
Was there ever any discussion originally or since then to have it an elected position as opposed to an appointed position?
I don't believe so, John, was there? Around being an elected position?
I thought the petition warrant articles have a budget committee, which would be elected, and they would have certain powers and rights underneath New Hampshire law. And then as part of the
Yeah.
old format town
Yeah.
meeting, where
Yeah.
everyone kind of got together on a Saturday morning, it got amended to being advisory only and appointed as, I guess, a step forward, but not
Right, not,
as powerful
so it was
as the committee.
proposed as a municipal budget committee, which would have been an elected position, which would have given them a lot more responsibilities and rights, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
So,
Originally, yes.
yeah, so it could, I mean, so
And then it got-
somebody could put forth a petition warrant article to make a budget committee, but it sounds like the two times in the past that happened,
That's fair.
it didn't get approved, and it got morphed into.
It got amended to this, amended to what it is right now.
So we would need,
So basically, we're just looking at putting it in front of the school board. We went in front of the select board a couple of times to talk about, the, what's gone on and what's happened with it. So this really is the outcome of,
I guess in the motion, I would just make sure that upon approval of the town,
Yeah, because based on what you've given us, this looks like it's going to be discussed the 22nd of August.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I
if we
think that's
approve
it.
if we approve it before they
Yeah, I
do,
would
and they
basi-
change it,
right,
yeah.
I'm just gonna make a suggestion that we approve it after they approve it. Just do it in September.
you have time to do that.
Yeah. Let
Want to table
the
it?
town go, we'll just table it.
But do we have any suggestions that we may want to propose to the town to, is there anything
that
that
is
we
something
want
we
to
can
change?
definitely move forward with. I mean, if someone else, looking this over, if someone has anything else that they would like to either add or see if the wording in it is proper. They changed a couple of lines in it from the original.
Why don't we do this, why don't we table it, and then if people have points or talking points, if they want to email them to me, and then I can make sure that gets communicated.
I just figured that way it's easier if, rather than try and fix it afterwards.
Do you need a motion?
No, if we're going to table it, we'll do it, so,
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we'll just table it.
September. Thank you, Paul.
Perfect, thanks. Okay. Next on the agenda is the proposed retirement.
So you have one proposed retirement, in your packet, and I hand you another one. You want to give that to Katie, one copy. And so I'd ask that you accept the proposed retirement of both Mel McLaughlin, the elementary school nurse, and Elaine Ricard, Sunbeam Middle High School teacher, paraprofessional here. And so I'll wait for you to do that, and I'll give you one other piece.
Okay, someone like to make a motion on these two?
I'll motion to
Please.
accept the proposed retirement of Mal McLaughlin and Elaine Ricard.
Okay, motion's made by April, and we have a
I
second?
second.
Second by Heather. Russ?
Do you want to vote on that?
Well, do you, I
No, I
think you
don't
want
want any-
discussion, you don't want anything,
No,
just
no,
let,
I'll let
okay.
That's all I need on that one.
Yeah,
And I'll give
'cause-
you another piece.
Because Mal just needs to turn in a year prior so we can do the budgeting for it.
Right.
That's basically it. The other one's not that way, but
Yeah.
Mal's doing it just because she gives us the heads up.
Can we make her stay an extra year if it?
Be nice to. I
wants?
didn't think she was gonna retire.
My kids are going to miss her,
Uh-huh.
Mine
even though they're
too.
not in the building anymore.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And just a piece of information regarding retirement, you may find this hard to believe, but maybe you won't. Mike Kennedy is not retiring at the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that piece.
So when he does decide to retire, he's got to give us another year now?
Yeah, I'm not really sure at this point. I've had some great conversations, Jody's had some great conversation with Mike, and he's just not ready.
Okay.
And we're happy that he's going to be with us, and we'll continue to work with him, and excited that he's going to stay with us. His wife is definitely retired and done. She's going to substitute for us. So.
Okay, next up is approval of RFP, and it is the oil and propane. Doing a joint thing with the town? Do you have extra?
So you
Motion
have
for
the
that?
RFP in your packet, and you took an email vote.
We did.
And approved that I could send that out. And I am handing you now the results of that. And if I can find all my paperwork. We have awarded that to, Matt, do you know off the top of your head? Dead River, right? Yeah. And so I would ask one that you just acknowledge that you had accepted the RFP, because you did that through email, and I just want to make that part of the public record, and then accept the bid
Accept
for
Dead River
RFP. Right. As the,
Dead
as
River
the
is okay, as the winner of the bid.
winner of the bid.
Okay. And the town, I assume, is basically acknowledging Dead River too.
Yes, they have. And
They
they're
already
working with
have.
Matt to work on addresses, so the bills are split, so we don't have to worry about cross-pollination of bills and all the rest of
Okay.
that.
So do you want a motion right now to
Yep.
approve the RFP
Yes.
for oil propane with the town of Sunapee?
Yes, I do.
That's my motion.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, motion's made by Paul. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by April.
And Heather.
And in that, do you want to say Dead River? Do you want to just
I
have
would
another
accept- I would
motion saying
accept
it?
the RFP and
Okay, and
then,
then do the Dead River.
and then
Okay,
make the second motion.
okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now I need a motion for the,
I'll move to accept the Dead River proposal.
okay, motion made by Paul, second by
I second.
Heather. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, into the information items,
Yes.
kindergarten, part-time.
So at our last meeting, you folks gave me permission to hire. In your packet are some of the folks that we hired over the summertime. And Nicole Bailey, part-time music teacher, Sunapee Central. Lisa Colburn, kindergarten teacher, and Catherine Scott, grade 1. And Jody, I don't know if you want to speak to any of those, or if the board has questions.
Two of those were approved before.
Prior?
Last year.
Oh, Nicole and,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Lisa and Nicole had their approval. And then with the reorganization and people taking different positions, we had the first grade position open, and we got a team together right after school got out, and phenomenal candidates. The first person we interviewed said, okay, we'll just stop right here, and then the second person we interviewed said, on second thought, we'll stop here. And so we had some really good candidates, I think, with really great qualifications. That one's been on his, working plus years, teaching with me, and we're very excited.
Great. Any other questions?
And then Scott and James for Sunapee Middle High School, and Scott in Industrial Arts, and James in Computer Science. And I don't know, Sean, if you want to speak to those.
No, if there's any questions, I can.
Anybody have any questions? No?
Okay, new staff?
New staff?
Three new staff members, Amy Coleman, Catherine Merrill, and Jean Morgan. Bus driver, and some financial support at the SAU office. And that's, again, information.
And that's to work with, Kelly? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's on a very limited, I think we put in the budget as less than 20 hours a week.
Okay.
And it's much less than that. And it's not even weekly, it's probably every, when we get started in the year, she's been in like 2 days, I think the last 3 weeks. And so we get going, it's just a random here and there when some big state reports and audits and things to
Okay.
do, just give some assistance.
Like when Mike basically came in. to
Basically
help
when Mike
out.
was going,
Okay.
right.
So with the bus drivers, the hiring of these two new ones, do we have additional candidates to use to pull on for substitutes? I know we talked.
So we are
a little
still,
bit.
believe it or not, I think going to be shy, if I'm not mistaken, speaking with Brenda yesterday, still shy a bus driver. But this puts us in a lot better condition, shape than we were, where we at least have all our routes covered and our our service programs covered, and some of our field trips and our sport teams, so we're much better off than we were last year. We're not running around quite as much. But we could still use one more if somebody knows a bus driver. And to speak to that, we're also getting some folks on staff trained. So we had some interest in, and I believe one of Matt's custodians to go get certified to become bus drivers.
Yep, so we'll just supply them the bus, the training,
Yep, the
pay
whole
for the
thing.
CDL.
Hold it.
It's a great idea.
Audit.
So at your spot, there was the audit, came in from our auditor. If you folks have questions, I know it's a big document, don't expect you to have questions tonight, obviously, since you just got it, please email them to Kelly, and she will either get your response back and make sure that any question that gets asked, she'll put out to the entire board to make sure everybody has all the same information.
Okay.
But we are in good shape, no issues, no.
How long were they there? Day?
4 days.
4 days?
3-4 days last year, yeah, they come. This was this report took a long time. Generally, we got them back somewhere in January, and we didn't get this one back, as you see, until June. And that was, the auditor really took full responsibility on that. The process of auditing this year changed with the Department of Revenue. And so that, I think, it just put them a little behind the 8 ball in trying to keep up with the new regulations.
Did we run into any delay problems from having it be
It
late?
wasn't on our end at all.
Well, I know, but as far as the grants or things that we needed to apply for, that we...
No, it didn't hurt us at all. Again, you can just let Kelly know your questions and email them to her, and we'll get that information out to the whole board. You good?
Sign next year. Oh, I thought everybody was just looking at it too.
I'm just gonna push them.
Yeah, okay. Move on to the proposed site for the sign of the Sherburne.
So the
Sherburne Gym.
sign, there's some information in your packet. I also handed, I sent it electronically to you early when it came in. There's a letter from a community member, and I think you have the hard copy in front of you tonight that I gave to you all. There's proposals there for the sign and its location. Just to be very specific for the layout on the ground. For a 10mm screen resolution, it was about $44,000. For a 6, which is a high resolution, it's about $59,000. And that's about the top end. And the cost to put the 10mm LED sign on the side of the building is about $49,000. Because it has to be a bigger screen, because of the size, it's going on one wall and not the other, so it actually increases the cost a little bit more. So that's information for you all. I've asked Chief Cahill to weigh in a little bit. He had told us to make sure that we're following zoning and things like that. Again, this is really a question to you folks as a school board on what you want to do. I will say this, that no matter what we do, we have to do something about the current sign that's there. Even if that means getting a new one of those, we have to do something. As Jody has said, there's not enough letters. It's definitely updated. Can use at least a coat of paint.
Do you have to get
So,
creative when you put a sign up now?
Sometimes you have to take over to make an R.
P.
From my perspective, these numbers approach warrant article numbers, where we go out and ask town whether or not they want to support this. That's what I think.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable spending 44, 59, or 49
Now-
on what we're doing.
Okay, April?
Sorry, I'm jumping. A couple of meetings ago, we talked about, people said from the town or the rec committee or private investors. Did we get any feedback from that? Anybody interested in donating and doing this sort of taking it on as a separate project, not related to any of the taxpayers, but just offering to collect the donations and
No,
coordinate it through them.
we didn't push it, I didn't push it any further, obviously, not knowing where we were going, and no one approached me saying, hey, we'd be happy to put $50,000 in your father.
I
So,
didn't expect that.
Yeah, so no, but we didn't extend those avenues.
Now, do we want to try and put out as a temporary solution for somebody to help with the sign we have, or maybe donate, work on something shorter so that we're not extending money now to then later, if it's on a warrant article, end up paying it again?
Sure, so I mean, I don't know, and Matt, I'm gonna, push comes to shove, the other solution we had was to install an outside 80-inch LED outside TV for about 10 grand. It would be mounted on the wall, it's weather resistant, obviously. We run an internet cable through, HDMI cable through, connected to a Chromebook inside, and we can basically do a sign, right? That could be it. That could be as far as we go, and leave it there.
And how big is that?
An 80-inch.
80-inch.
It's pretty big. And that would be a recommendation based upon working with the sign companies to the visibility of seeing that sign on the side of the wall. That's about 10 grand.
And that would have to be coordinated through the Sherburne, though? You couldn't remotely access it from somewhere else?
Yeah, I think that's beyond my, so I know you would go in, and whether you could remote in, I guess I leave that to someone who might know better than I. Potentially, I would say yes, but I don't know.
So that's what we do in my professional world, is that we have those same exact signs,
Yeah.
and we remote in, and they all change at once.
Any thoughts on that?
So that's the electronic fix now, and again, there's the old-fashioned fix, which is probably somewhere in the, I don't know, I'm gonna say 5,000 to 7,000, maybe 4,000 to 5,000 to go find a 4 or 5 slot, 8 by 6, whatever that is, have our logo put on it.
So I don't know if this helps as a comparison, but what I'm getting for feedback from people, the parents specifically in the community I talked to, we just had soccer signups. It was supposed to be August 1st. Yesterday I had a parent tell me, well, I never saw the sign. And so when I was going to Veterans Field yesterday to get the soccer supplies, I actually took a picture of the sign that's right there, clearly visible. I confess, I've driven it by a ton of times. I never saw it either. So I just think that there's, no matter what we do, they'll either or see it or not see it, but I don't think a fancy electronic sign really does much better than a standard sign if people are looking for it or they're not, because in this case, like I said, it was very clear. We did the best we could. It was, the date was on there. It just didn't, it didn't work.
Did the chief seem to think that it would be, if we went with, say, like an 80 by 80 on the wall, like up right where it is
Yeah,
right now, did
yeah.
he feel that that was going to be people would be rubbernecking and they possibly would?
So, I don't
Run
know,
into-
he didn't necessarily weigh in on that, and I asked that specifically, and
Okay, nice.
I think he was just, he didn't necessarily weigh in.
Yeah. Is it possible to well, we could utilize the 80 by 80 somewhere else if we bring it, take Paul's suggestion and bring it to the town. Say get it on an article. We could utilize the 80 by 80 somewhere else.
So if we were to install an LED 80 by 80 inch TV, weather
There for the
resistant
fix.
screen, and that's our sign, I would recommend that we probably would stay with that for a
Okay.
number of years.
That's
You
fine.
wouldn't ask for a warrant article after that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just say that's it, and whatever that lasts for, given our weather, temperature, and the technology, I'm sure there's a warranty on it for a number of years, but I know that they're.
Do we have to make a decision today? Can we do a little bit more research on?
We can continue to research, that's why it's down in our information, because I know there was still a lot of conversations, I was bringing you numbers.
Yeah.
I want you to have that discussion, and just tell me what it is you like to do, and I will do the rest.
Ryan?
Sorry, I think at this point, 40 to 49 is
It's
just.
a big number.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a big number.
There's a lot we can do with that
Yeah.
money that, I know community outreach is important, but there's a lot we can do in the buildings or with students to better their life in school than put a sign up. So
Yeah.
if there's a $10,000,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, that's not a great number either, but it's,
It's a better number.
yes.
Yeah. Heather?
I would tend to want to make simple fixes now with letters and paint, and then let the town decide. We could, have some renderings available during the voting, and have a warrant article to justify the cost and the value of the sign.
Are you getting a lot of, I guess we don't know, because right now what we have doesn't work. We agree about that, but we don't know if people would be just as happy if we did the paint and the new sign fix.
Yeah,
not
I
electronic.
think, I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I think that regardless of what you do here, you're gonna have some critics. And I think some people will be happy, and in a year from now, it'll be the sign on the wall, or the sign in the parking lot, or the old sign. But it's just deciding I do, as I said, regardless, we have to do something.
Right.
Right? And if that means tear it down and give it to the new shop teacher and say, build us another one, then
Hey,
maybe that's what we try to do.
does anybody still need a senior project that they want to work on?
Well,
Well, we
that's-
also have a sign at this school that we have to do something with.
So we've changed this sign. So the sign up front fell, is
Yeah,
done.
right.
That we got approved by the town just to put up a new sign, and that's a very inexpensive, it's not electronic, it's just a simple, welcome to Sunapee Middle High School. Right, and that's that. And you'll see the marquee, we put a 36-inch in front where the marquee was,
Yeah.
and so we're doing that outside TV there in that encased box, and you'll have that there. So very, very cheap, inexpensive fixes.
Okay. Well, so we want to table it until next, that's what I'm hearing?
Are we tabling or are we?
I need a little more,
You need
Yeah,
direction?
you need some direction.
Okay.
I'd
So-
I'd like to, we talk about attaching what you said, an LED or LCD?
LED.
Outside TV.
Yes,
And
LED,
I-
right, Matt?
Yeah, I do so.
Yes, LED.
Okay, so do we have hard numbers on that?
As far as the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Cost
a-
and
I have an
installation.
actual quote,
Okay.
not right in front of me, but. in my
And
office.
then for a manual sign, we don't have any
We don't.
information?
But it's.
5, 6, 7,
It's somewhere in that
3.
5 ballpark,
Yeah.
I imagine.
I'd like to be able to make a decision based on some hard numbers.
But I think we should probably give a little more steering so that we don't
Right.
have Matt keep going back. I
Well,
mean,
I
my
think-
preference would be
We know
to-
80 inches somewhere in the 10 grand range,
Okay.
right? We know that. I'll go on a limb and tell you that a wooden sign is well under the 10 grand range. I'm gonna say probably within the 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think with some,
And bringing it to our shop may be $300, who knows? We haven't taken it off the wall yet to see whether it actually exists.
There seems to be an element outside of the cost, and that is whether or not the town would like a sign. I know Brian has said that, there's some troubles with having a sign there, and is it the aesthetic that we desire for Sunapee? And I think not only the cost, but also the value of the sign and the aesthetic that the community is going for would be a really good opportunity to allow our voters to decide. Those are my thoughts.
I think going with the sign that we have up there now, there's nothing wrong with the old school, but I think that since we're in the technological age, I think it makes more sense to do something with it digital.
I'm just chuckling, I'm waiting for the person to say, well, he's 4 steps up on the ladder, so now that's a